They're really upset. Right, this month we're celebrating the 25th anniversary of one of the greatest fights of all time. Marvellous Marvin Hagler. When I watch it again today, of course, it's marvellous with one L because it's in America, against Thomas the Hitman Hearns for the world middleweight title at Caesars Palace in Las Vegas. Steve, put it into context. Why did this matter so much?
Well, it mattered so much because it was all part of a series of fights which were lumped together brilliantly by a guy we'll hopefully be speaking to in a book just came out last year called, or 2 years ago, called The Four Kings. And it mattered because it just seemed to be at a time when these guys, the Las Vegas boys, these guys, Roberto Duran, Marvin Hagler, Sugar Ray Leonard and Thomas Hearns, they were just delivering fight after fight and raw excitement after raw excitement. Not all of them, they had 9 bouts together, 1 or 2 of them were stinkers. But this one in particular, it just transcended the sport at that moment. And what's more, it's grown. With each year it's grown. It's like Botham's Ashes. There were 22,000 people in the car park. Well, I've met 33,000 people that were in the corner.
You mentioned George Kimball. He wrote the book Four Kings. He's on the line now. George, it was this particular fight was a long time in the making.
It certainly was. It was actually on paper to happen in 1982. And the negotiations had actually begun at the end of 81. So the expectation at the time had been that it was going to happen in 82. Of course, there was a lot of things going on behind the scenes that everyone was unaware of when that happened. Arum and Bob Arum and Hagler's people had signed a 3-fight contract with Hearns' manager Emmanuel Stewart, and the idea was supposed to be that Hagler would stage 3 consecutive defenses against Kronk fighters, Mickey Goodwin, Caveman Lee, and then Hearns. And the Goodwin fight was supposed to be the first one. It was supposed to be in Italy in March. Goodwin hurt his hand, broke his hand, had to be replaced by Lee and by Caveman Lee, and they Italy. So that ended up being in Atlantic City. But now, in the meantime, when they start talking about going straight to the Hearns fight, it turns out that unbeknownst to even to Hagler's people, they claim, the top-ranked contract with HBO that he'd signed on Hagler's behalf put a specified dollar figure on the Hearns fight of $900,000 and required HBO to be able to show it on free television. Well, with the money that they were going to spend on this fight, even in 1982, in a 5,000-seat arena, there is absolutely no way in the world they could have paid both fighters with only $900,000 worth of television money. Arum tried to get around this by this fight. The 82 fight wasn't going to be promoted by Top Rank. It was going to be promoted by Bob Arum Enterprises, which is another company, shell company he owned. And the thing went to court. The judge had actually ruled in HBO's favor. Within 24 hours, Tommy Hearns broke the pinky in his hand, and the fight was postponed. It is very convenient because the insurance policy wouldn't pay off on a court decision that adversely impacted your potential profit, but it was covered against injury.
Against injury. So they eventually, let's just hear the start, George. They eventually get it together in 1985. We're not going to play the whole of the first round, obviously, but here are some of the juicy highlights from the first round, and the commentator is Ian Dark.
You'll hear the first bell any moment here at Caesars Palace, Las Vegas. The outdoor arena packed, 15,000 people inside. 2 million watching around the world on closed-circuit TV. Away they go, and Hagler looks for a big right straight away and goes in very aggressively, trying to score with a left to the body as well. Purposeful start, though, by Hagler, and again he's caught to the body. Is Hearns there, and then a great right from Hagler. Hagler is going out with a really aggressive opening. Hearns tries to counter on the ropes. What a start this is. The two of them trading blows, and I think Hagler got hurt in that exchange there and is forced to hold on. This is absolute all-out war in the opening minute between the two of them. There is blood around the head of Hagler over the eyebrows. I can't see this one going the distance if it continues at this amazing pace. The two of them swapping blood punches again, but Hagler is badly cut. There is blood streaming down his face. I suspect by now Hagler is aware of that. Hearns countering off the ropes. Hagler punishing him with left hooks and scything hooks. A right went in there, thumping to the head of Hearns, who surely can't take too much of that himself. He does try to counter, and he's wobbled by a great right from Hagler, and that sent Hearns staggering back off the ropes, but he recovered well from it. What an opening round. There goes the bell to end it. All-out war, Colin Hart.
I've never seen anything like it in 20 years of covering boxing.
That's Colin Hart of The Sun, still of The Sun. Ring magazine, Steve, described it as the greatest round in boxing history. Are they right? Is it still the greatest round in boxing?
No, it's still the greatest round in boxing. There was a couple of years later. We'll talk about them another night. I think it still is the greatest round in boxing. And I'll tell you what, Hagler didn't care about home-down decisions. He'd been stitched up too many times when he was a pup, and he was making sure in Vegas. A couple of years later, he didn't make sure, and he possibly got stitched up against Leonard.
And in keeping with the theme of the show tonight, two of the judges thought Hagler won that first round, but the other judge thought Hearns had won it.
I mean, literally, it's like sort of two greyhounds coming out the traps and just going for it.
You have to watch it several times, Mark, on that channel you can't mention. You have to watch it. You can watch it 5 or 6 times, and you still got to go and watch it after you go and get a coffee.
George?
Yeah, the one thing about this is that, it was a great first round, and Hearns really did. The first time he hit him with that hard right hand, he really did stagger Hagler. I mean, Marvin was just hanging on at that point. But I think Emmanuel Stewart will tell you now that this is, he's usually very, very well prepared. He's a great strategist. That he never in his wildest dreams imagined that this raging bull was going to come tearing out of the corner the way Hagler did. That just was not Marvin's M.O. He normally did not fight like that. And but they had made a conscious decision to turn this thing into a brawl from the beginning. Goody Petronelli. His reasoning was that Hagler had a great chin. He thought he could stand up to anything Hearns could hit him with, but he recognized that Tommy was probably the better boxer, and that over 12 rounds, if they tried to box with him, Marvin might end up on the short end of it. And so this was never going to go the distance. This is going to be a street fight from the get-go, and it caught Hearns and Stewart quite by surprise that this first round started like that.
Well, here's round 2. Here are the closing seconds.
Hagler scoring with 2 punches to the head, and to me, Hearns is beginning to look dazed and wobbly, and he could be taken here if Hagler can find the right punch. He counters with his own uppercut, then an attempted left, but combinations going in this time from Hagler. Hagler now is getting on top. Hearns tries to counter but misses. Again, the blood streams from Hagler's eyes as he is on top in a big way in the last minute of the second round. And Hagler's getting on top, and the bell couldn't have come soon enough for Tommy Hearns, because Hagler seemed to be getting on top in a big way in that second round towards the end there, Colin Hart.
Yes, he was. Now, the point is, if he doesn't stop Hearns, it's possible that he might bleed to death. He's got cuts on his forehead, he's got cuts under his right eye, but he's punching the harder.
I mean, that's an amazing line from Colin Hart. If he doesn't win soon, he's going to, he might bleed to death.